so the larger healthcare organizations and practices, they have IT staff, they have IT security people, they have firewall, they have intrusion detection systems, so they are monitoring. I think what we were starting to see is how does a small physician practice doesn't have dedicated IT people, don't have security professionals in the organization, how do they deal with all of this, right? So any typical one physician practice has somewhere between 2,000 to 5,000 records in their EMR over a 5 to 10 year period. That is valuable information. And if the physician's office doesn't have a firewall, doesn't have any safety mechanisms to understand what exactly is going on, they're a very easy target for anybody to come in through the internet and grab that information. They wouldn't even know. I think that was the one that caused us to think about, I think there should be social awareness, there should be an understanding of the law, because if somebody were able to grab that information and it shows up on dark web, and FBI and Secret Service, they're always looking at the dark web, and they find out that this physician's office lost this data and did not report it. That's a penalty in itself, and we'll talk a little bit about HIPAA compliance. Right?
But what I do want to talk to you tonight are about two issues that I find most physician practices and practice administrators have difficulty with understanding, and they are breach notification and business associates. We in Florida have something called the Florida Information Protection Act, and this you need to be aware of, because unfortunately it is not identical to HIPAA. And one of the key differences is that unlike HIPAA, with FIPA, you have to do your notification in 30 days. Now, HIPAA says it's the floor standard, unless your state has something that they call more stringent. A 30-day notification standard is more stringent than a 60-day notification standard. So for all practical purposes, this is what you need to be following for purposes of complying with state law. Do you know where your data is stored? Now, again, I'm not the guy to ask about this, but is it on a server in your office? Is it on a server that is across town? Or is it a server that is in Europe or the Middle East somewhere? You need to know where it's stored. Because if you know, I know over time you contract with lots of different people, and big institutions have a bigger problem with this than small ones. But you got to know who your business associates are, and make sure you got an agreement with each and every one of them. You almost need a checklist of what you need to do with a vendor. Is a vendor a business associate? Yes or no? The answer is yes. Do you have a business associate agreement? Yes or no? You need to do those kinds of things. Leaving important information out of the agreement, an agreement that doesn't cover what it is that you do in the event that the agreement terminates.
And my practice, just to give you a brief background, it's completely paperless from the beginning. It was completely paperless. I have no paper charts, no records of even the consent forms. Everything is electronic. We send claims electronically. So everything had to be very secure. So choosing the software that I had to choose for patient management, or patient communication software, or my server. I had a huge server now. We had to have a firewall. So all these little things start to come up, and I'm like, okay, how do I do this? Am I going to focus on this, or am I going to focus on my dentistry, which is what I love to do? So that's when I realized that you have to partner with the experts in those fields. For example, I chose a lab, which was a very reputable one, and then I got my cases back, which were really good, and so I'm like, okay, I'm set with this. Years ago, a lot was going on that you need to be HIPAA compliant, and I was getting emails. So I talked to Sanjay. Anyway, so Sanjay came in, and I thought we had everything. He says, you have a firewall? Yeah, we have it. I have a backup. I have this. Everything. He said, yeah, I have it, And then he started pointing out my server room didn't have locks. My staff needed to be trained. They needed to understand what they were supposed to talk about, not talk about. We introduced privacy screens on our computers. Besides that, he introduced me to the business associate agreement. So we have business associate agreement with everyone who has access to my records. All I can say is that it's really, really important to do HIPAA training for your practices, to instill this culture of privacy in your practice, to train your staff how important it is. And that's it.
Thank you, Doctor.
Steve, anything you want to add to this?
I just want to thank everybody for your patience and staying with us, not throwing anything at us, and have a good evening.